What happens in the sky affects life down here on Earth. The celestial compass shows you how and guides your way with astrology you can use from professional astrologer Kathy Beal. Every episode features her light-hearted, practical forecasts and navigational tips, blended with humor, optimism, and a love of patterns, symbolism, and pop culture references. Kathy translates technicalities into concepts that apply to real life. You'll learn how the current moment ties to where we've been, from the recent past to cycles that last happened years ago, and get a look at where we're heading. And much more, from special topics to special guests. The Celestial Compass, enlightening, entertaining, and empowering. Here's your host, Kathy Beal.
Greetings, Earthlings. This is Kathy Beal of EmpowermentUnlimited.net, and we're going to be talking about 2023 in just a minute with a favorite returning guest. But before we get there, I want to give a little heads up to what's happening astrologically for the rest of the month. Even though we have maybe 11, 12 days left, there's a terrific amount of activity going on. Tomorrow, on the 20th, Jupiter enters the sign of Aries, where it spent May 10th or so till the end of October, and it'll be there into May. And this is really going to pump up a lot of energy and enthusiasm, especially because the next day, on the 21st, we have the solstice, winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, summer solstice in the southern, and Jupiter and the sun are going to be in a very challenging, activating relationship, kind of setting fire to ourselves on an inner level, and which is interesting given that it's a fire ritual is so important at the solstice with the Yule log, etc., and bringing the light within. Well, we'll have the light coming in not just our homes, but erupting in us, especially on the Capricorn new moon on the 23rd. It's an excellent time for setting intentions that you're very enthusiastic about that will play out over slowly, step by step, over a period of months. And there's still even more. We have our final Mercury retrograde of the year starting on the 29th. It'll carry over until the middle of January. And remember that Mars is already retrograde, so we're going to coast out the year and start the next one with a double-barreled caution for communication and getting around. But there's still even one more thing. On the 31st, Venus and Pluto meet on New Year's Eve, the two guardians of love and desire, the two guardians of money and wealth, fuse at the end of Capricorn. So it could be an extraordinarily intense evening. It could be a day when you get extraordinarily clear about what you really absolutely unconditionally must have in your life and what you're ready and willing to cut loose. And you'll still have some time to coast with that because, again, the double retrograde feel continues into the middle of January. Which leads to what we're talking about today, this next new year, which promises to have a really different vibe from what we have been experiencing. And to talk about it, I am joined today by Donna Woodwell, who attended grad school to become a foreign correspondent and had no idea just how foreign she'd get. After exploring ancient and modern astrological, magical, and mystical practices for more than 25 years, she now teaches witches, pagans, and astrologers how to unleash their unique genius into the world. You can find out more at www.magicandmastery.com. Hey, Donna, thanks so much for coming back.
Well, thank you for having me, Kathy.
So you and I have kicked around our thoughts some about 2023, and I'd like to start with sort of an overview. Do you have like a big picture sense of the year?
Yeah, I think you, of all the astrologers that I've heard talk about it, have my favorite keyword for the year, and that was threshold. Because 2023, you can't really divorce it from the longer story that's unfolding, which is over the next few years, we are shifting into a dramatically different kind of energy. We've been spending the last, half dozen years with everything in yin signs. It's been watery and earthy and reactive and feminine, and we're moving into yang territory over the next few years, which is out there and active and chasing things down and masculine, and that shift is going to be felt by everybody. But it takes a little while to get there. So 2023 to me is that threshold event that's moving us into the new energy that's going to be moving in and affecting all of us.
And the moving energy starts actually on the 20th of December when Jupiter returns to Aries, where it will spend the first, not quite 5 months of the year.
Absolutely. I completely agree there. We look at our calendars and we think somehow that's a year, and we can forget that the calendar that we plug up on our walls is a construction. It's not based in physical, natural cycles of time. It's something that we invented with a lot of cultural overlays and Roman emperors fighting each other about whose month got to be longer, and so we ended up with this thing, but it's not a biological thing.
Oh, no, not at all. And especially not if we've got this retrograde corridor taking us from one year to another. I honestly think that we're not going to feel a new year starting until about the third week of January next year.
Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we gotta wait until when Uranus moves direct on I think it's the 18th of January. There will be like no planets retrograde for 80 some odd days, which is a really long time to have nothing going backwards. And I think for a lot of people, this Capricorn season that starts on the solstice features a Mercury retrograde starting on the 29th of December. It runs through January. All of that's going to make us want to, okay, maybe we don't want to, but there's an urge, maybe an urgency to get our act together before we enter this fresh energy, no holds bar, let's get moving state.
And as we scooch into that, one of the characteristics of 2023 that really struck me when I started charting it out was the number of outer planets changing sign, which is a big, it's a
and in
big
a small
generational
period of time.
They're squinched up close together that they're doing it, right?
Yeah, it's a very small period of time. March is fascinating because Pluto's moving into Aquarius, which, happens every couple decades or so, moves into a different sign, more or less. Saturn's moving into Pisces within a week or two of each other. That happens every 3 years. And then Mars is moving into a new sign, and Jupiter's already just have moved into a new sign not long before. You throw in all the normal Sun, Venus, Mercury that are always moving into a new sign. We don't have to worry about them so much. That's a lot of ground-changing shifts that if that shift to yang energy starts like now, we are moving into that second stage. At least we're getting a taste of it as Pluto moves into Aquarius. It'll only be there for a couple months, but those moments that give us flash forwards, I find are some of the most interesting. Because we all know in our lives, right? You know, we know we need to do something. We feel it. But sometimes it starts out so small that we don't pay much attention, or we don't do anything about it. Like, you know, I knew I needed to leave my job. I went to a retreat, took my staff on a retreat, and there's a little voice in my head like, I don't belong here. And I didn't do anything about it. I just kind of went, la, 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 I got too much work to do. I'm going to ignore this. And, you know, it just got a little louder and a little louder. And then weird stuff started happening at work, like, you know, piles got too big, senior vice president got, you know, handsy. Just, it got to the point where it's like, okay, it's going to keep getting worse until you pay attention to what I've been trying to tell you for months. I think it's that kind of energy that when planets move into a sign, like Pluto, that's so slow moving and it gets like a little bit of a taste. In 2024, we'll get a little bit more of a taste. Eventually, it'll be there permanently, but it takes years to really move to its place. So we have a chance to adjust and get a sense of what it feels like before, you know, we have to do the new thing.
Well, and Pluto gets the benefit of the one outer planet aspect of the year, because while it's hanging out at the very beginning of Aquarius, Jupiter is going to move into Taurus. So Jupiter is going to square Pluto, and this is in May, correct? And to me, that's like, and we really mean it. Like, I think we'll get, if we haven't really sensed the difference in the air when Pluto first moves into Aquarius, by early May, there'll be this really strong, whoa, wow, because Jupiter, when it squares things, my observation is, makes them cartoonishly large. Do you have thoughts about what we might be seeing or experiencing then?
It can happen. Since I'm a traditional astrologer, I don't look at Jupiter squares as a bad thing, in the sense of squares from other planets can be much more difficult in our lives than a Jupiter square. So
I agree.
Large,
I just think it makes it bigger.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it can shift our perspective. It could draw our attention to the situation, which is what we all need. And really, what's happening with the fact that Saturn is moving at the same time as Pluto, I think it's really interesting, because Saturn and Pisces. Saturn and Pisces is an odd couple to me. Saturn likes things nice, structured. It likes it nice and grounded. It likes it predictable. It likes to be patiently walking through things one at a time. Pisces is like, whoa! It's listening to the Om Time song. It has no boundaries. It is okay drifting in the cosmos, and to put structure and giant cosmic energy together, that's a stretch. And it's a stretch that enables us to begin to dissolve with that Piscean energy all the structures in our lives and to move into something different. So I think the shift that's coming is being, shall I say, lubricated by the Jupiter and Pisces, and we don't really move into that everything is in a yang sign until 2026. So we've got to finish up this business of dissolving stuff that Neptune's been putting us through for the last, I don't know how many years now, 12, whatever.
Yeah.
and the energy that Uranus is bringing to the mix in another Earth sign, Taurus, all of that is getting, it's the alchemical process of dissolution. We let go, we dissolve away, because it's the end of something, and we don't have much of a choice.
Which is also a feature of what happens with Pluto. And just doubling back to that just a tiny bit, or linking it to what you've just been saying, I was acutely aware of the difference in the atmosphere the very day that Pluto moved into Capricorn in January 2008, and I'm very curious how things are going to feel atmospherically when Pluto makes its move. I mean, I've for some reason been hypersensitive to a couple of its sign shifts in my life. So that could be something for people to watch.
Everyone, no one could have missed that. I mean, the whole stock market went kablooey, short order out with that transition. Now, no one says it has to happen again, but it was a palpable thing, and even though in traditional astrology, Capricorn and Aquarius are both ruled by Saturn, the difference in the way they relate to the world is palpable. And I think that's the hard thing with prediction, especially right now, because we're creating something totally new and hopefully we've never done before. That story has to be rewritten. Guessing what that story might play out like when we haven't seen something like it before will be its own fascinating thing.
Boy, that's the truth. I've been collecting. I've been looking back. A request in my Patreon caused me to look back at what sorts of people were born the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, and it was actually pretty interesting. Some revolutionary leaders, and I'm going to hold it right there because we've just hit the time for the break. So everyone hang on, and you'll find out what I mean by this in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Celestial Compass. I'm talking with Donna Woodwell about what is coming in 2023. And we were right before the break talking about things that are just necessary to release as part of life, and that there seems to be an accelerated experience of that lately. I've noticed this particularly in the arena of relationships and friendships. It seemed like people have been put into a centrifuge and it's been turned on high, and they've just gone whee to the far corners of the universe. So that could be another thing coming up with Aries and Libra moving into the eclipse equation. Oh, goody. Anyway, do you have anything more you want to say about eclipses? Because I have one more topic.
No, let's go to your next topic.
The next topic is, let's talk about all the retrogrades next year. Mercury's actually retrograde 4 times, although just a tiny bit at the last. And it's not all that common to have two inner planet retrogrades simultaneously. And I'm just fascinated by the fact that Mars has been retrograded. It's in a sign ruled by Mercury, and then Mercury goes retrograde, and the two of them give this double-barreled impact in the first 2 weeks of the year. So I don't see anything taking off quickly in 2023.
Yeah, I think we've got to wait a few weeks. The
right,
people who like kind of like having a slow start to their day or their year, they're in luck.
They're in luck. What do you think about Mercury and Mars being retrograde at the same time, with Mars answering to Mercury in all of this?
I think people have got to learn patience.
Okay.
Seriously, I think it was Oprah Winfrey. I heard her quote one day. She's like, I stopped praying for courage because the universe keeps bringing me situations that require me to develop courage. And I'm tired of those situations, so I'm going to go ask for something else. I think there's some truth to that. When we need something, the universe provides a situation in order for us to develop it. And we don't always like what that is. So why don't you just, decide to get some patience rather than have to have the universe set it up for you so you can practice.
Yeah, I'm stifling. Okay, I'm stifling a memory here. We're just going to let that sit in a box way over there. Everyone can wonder what in the world is she thinking about. Um, One thing that caught my attention, besides the fact that we start with Mercury and Mars, both retrograde, and Mars has been retrograde in Gemini, which has had some of the characteristics of a Mercury retrograde since communication channels are to some extent involved with this. But the other thing that has really got my attention is the that the first Mercury retrograde of the year stations direct at the very degree that the last Mercury retrograde of the year stations retrograde. So I think that's going to be fascinating to see, getting to go further back and re-explore some stuff when we thought we had moved ahead.
Isn't that the name of the game, though? You know what astrology is all the way about? 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's the definition of a retrograde. It's a built-in chance to, like, oh, you think you learned? Okay. I always, when I had clients coming into my office and they'd say, well, I already worked through that. And I'm like, you should never have said that out loud.
Yeah, you've just invited something to prove to you that you're wrong.
Talking about brave.
Foolhardy.
So I mean, like, for example, Venus is retrograde, like July, August, September-ish, and it starts out the year, like on the 4th, it will be moving into Aquarius, which is the sign opposite where it will be retrograde in Leo. So the little blip that it's in Aquarius, in the beginning of the year going direct, whatever you give up there, because Venus in Aquarius likes to be free, and it's like, I don't need to be attached to these things. You'll get around to be like, I don't know, like July, August, and whatever you gave away is coming back. And now you're like, wait a minute, I got rid of you. And now you're here again. That song, The Cat Came Back. And it's even more appropriate with Venus and Leo, The Cat Came Back.
That's hysterical.
So we will see. That's just, it pays to have a sense of humor about all of this stuff. That's one of the many reasons why Kathy is one of my favorite astrologers, because she has such a sense of humor about all of this. She is even laughing in her promos that you hear in between, like, the different radio stations.
Yeah, I'm a self-amusing personality. Thank you for noticing. So here's another feature that's a loaded word. Another feature of this year's retrogrades is that they're all in Earth. What does that tell you? Well, the final one backs into Sagittarius, but they're all in Earth.
Yeah, because when Mercury rules an air sign, which is our thoughts, and an earth sign, which is how we go about taking our airy spiritual ideas and making them into physical things. And so when stuff is in earth signs, we are called to question how much of our energy is invested in all the physical stuff around us. And anybody who's like totaled a car or had their house burned down or had some major shift in their life where something physical is lost and you're like, whoa, what happened? And the energy feels so different. You've had a personal experience with how much your non-physical energy is held in physical forms. And so I think that Mercury going retrograde in earth signs is just an opportunity for us to lighten the load quite literally. If you don't need it, why are you carrying around? It's just going to be more stuff that you have to move into the future. And does it really align with the future you want to bring? So if you're really honestly asking yourself those questions about what do I want to create, the next logical step is to look around at your space, your stuff, your time, all of those things, and make adjustments, make changes so that they're in alignment with what you say you want. Because if you're not willing to do that, then you've really got to sit down and ask, why are two parts of yourself in such conflict with one another?
In addition to that, I agree with all of that. I think there's additionally a streak of all of the retrograde breakdowns and snafus that will happen will be involving extremely practical, concrete aspects, features, things, matters, whatever. It's not just like our ideas are being challenged, but the actual physicality of our lives. And additionally, and this thought just went away. Okay, it will be back. Oh yeah, we'll have the opportunity to go back and clean up and reorganize a lot of things with incredible practical application. Again, not just the philosophy of what is my thought loop that's going on all the time, but what are the real world ramifications of my thought loop, or this communication stream, or what's it worth to me, basically, coming down to it in a big way. So, very practical and very valuable retrogrades, and potentially extremely annoying because Mercury isn't, except when it's in Virgo, Mercury isn't particularly happy in Earth signs because it can't fly around and play ooh shiny object and short attention span theater and multitask quite as easily. So that the times that it's in Capricorn and then Taurus could be slower than slow, like time is in like a pearl in amber, or a pearl being dropped in molasses and it's going in slow mode.
I tend to think that's, it takes 3 tries to really get the hang of it. And, you know, once we get around to Virgo season, we will have had the Capricorn retrograde and the Taurus retrograde already. So I think it's like, oh wait, I think I can handle it. It doesn't mean that Mercury in Virgo isn't erotic, as I can say because I have one, but that just means that it's like 3rd tries the charm.
I like that. That's very positive, very uplifting. Gives people hope. If you want more details about this, my annual Mercury retrograde guide is already up at Om Times. So when I share this episode, I'll put that in there, and I'll see if I can get it into the episode description on Om Times as well. So another part of this, we've come up with like tools for how people can deal with this year. Would you care to talk about that?
Well, one really big tool is what Kathy and I are doing in January. Do you want to talk about that first? Or
that's what I was thinking of, yes.
Okay. It's hard to read your mind when I can't even see you.
That's true.
So Kathy and I are going to get together and have a 2-hour workshop to broaden on the themes of the coming year in a way that gives you really practical tools to write your own story, so to speak. We want to sit down with people and help you understand where these different events that we've talked about are happening in your own unique chart, so how they're resonating with you personally, and what you can do about them. So we've got some fun things planned. I don't want to give it all away. There'll be a workbook, and there'll be writing sections and journal prompts, and it will be me and Kathy. We are fun.
We are fun.
We are fun. So if you want to sign up for that, this is the first time we've given out this URL. It's at www.magicandmastery.com/2023 workshop. So just go on over there, sign up. The event will be live on January 4th in the afternoon, Eastern and Central Time. It's a Wednesday, just in case you're worrying. Hopefully some people will be off and you'll have some time to invest in yourself and set up a new year for you. And come play with us. What do you think, Kathy? Did I hit everything?
There are replay options, right? So if people are hearing this
Yes,
going, oh no,
absolutely.
I'll be at work.
Yeah, we always have replays. We know in this digital world that, everyone loves around the replay. But, replay will work just fine because it will give you a chance for a 2-hour retreat with yourself.
And I can't stress the workbook is a big part of this, and Donna's workbooks are always A, gorgeous, and B, very easy to interact with. So it's not a daunting, oh my God, I have this thing I have to do. No. There's something about it that makes you want to go through and like, oh, now I'm going to try this.
Think Mad Libs plus astrology.
Mad Libs plus astrology. There we go.
There you go. And it's $27 for the 2 hours. Again, the URL is www.magicandmastery.com/2023 workshop, all one word. Should be super easy to find.
You also have goodies that are available in your coven. Would you like to talk about those?
I have goodies everywhere. So if you just go to my main website, www.magicandmastery.com, I have a 48-page, full-color, glossy magazine to go over 2023. You can just go to the home page, see the big old box, click it, it says, I want this right now, and it will send it to you right now. I went ahead and wrote another magazine that's gorgeous. On top of that, that is a month-by-month forecast with spells and rituals for every single month of the year. If you're on my mailing list, you'll get a link for that. I have a free annual year in review where you sit down and use the astrological houses to reflect on your life. So if you have a journal, you can use it as your journal review. But if you don't have one, it doesn't matter. I ask you 150 questions. It'll give you plenty of food for thought. If you're on my mailing list, you will get that for free. I have so much stuff. And that's not, as Kathy mentioned, I also have a Magic and Mastery Coven, which is the people who want to work with me, who really want to dive in and study what magic means in their own lives. Get on my mailing list. I'll be telling you about that. But there's already 75 hours of trainings, plus discounts on all my courses. I love doing everything I can to help people unlock the magic in themselves. And I feel like I have the best job ever because it's my privilege to work with people every day to make sure we can all co-create something new.
And people listening to this, magic isn't just what you think of running around with a wand or intentions or doing spells. There are also courses on all kinds of other or related modalities, astrology, tarot, Kabbalah, things I can't pronounce.
I have a giant definition of magic. If it's about you plugging into spirit, it's magic. It's my definition. If you are trying to co-create your life, you're doing magic. You may not call yourself a witch. You may not wear a pointy hat, but that's okay. Because not everybody has to use those words that identify with those things. But if you believe in co-creating your world, you might as well have a wand in your back pocket.
Thank you, Donna. Happy 2023, everybody.